Namo Buddhaya. Buddhang Samangachan, Buddhang Samangachan, Samangachan, Go Piante, Tapiante.
This human existence to coexist harmoniously with other living beings, Dhamma came in, the rule of Dhamma. That is what we have the Paticcasamuppada, it is the principle of interdependency. Like there is something interdependence. The things are interwoven. It's not only one thing or one race or one species that can exist. So this Dhamma the Buddha has given us actually is to support for harmonious and better existence of all living beings. Suppose the things that are available with us, the given gift of the nature you call, or you may call the given gift of the God or Almighty, whatever we have, the air, the water, the rivers, mountains, rocks, sona, chandi, all, whatever things are available in this world, in this globe, for example, right? They are given with us. But if these things are not taken care of properly, if they are misused, misappropriated, then what will happen? Then the very existence of human beings, the very existence of other living beings will be at stake, which we are experiencing nowadays. How human actions making impact negatively on different dimensions of our earth, the world, where we have now climate change, there is tsunami, calamities, disasters of different sorts. And if we really study seriously, we find that these are mostly the contribution, directly or indirectly, of we human beings. We have contributed to a large extent for all the imbalances that are happening now in this world. So to bring a balance and harmony, the Dhamma is essential. That's how the Buddha has given the Dhamma. Water is something physical that exists, and Dhamma is something, either it is quantum physical, it's so minute as a principle, or metaphysical. But these metaphysical or the ideas or the principles have all possible necessary ingredients or necessary aspects or dimensions to support the physical entity, the water, air, and all other elements that are available in the universe, in the world, so that there can be harmony and balance between the physical and the non-physical interaction or interrelationship. So here, how the given thing, I just started with water, it is pure. Water in its original form is a pure form. Whenever you take it, it's always pure, unless we mix something to water, right? So what we understand, water means what? H2O. Of course, I'm not a scientist, but that's what I know. H2O means water, right? Hydrogen 2 and oxygen 1. That's what I understand, or we understand. pure form of water. But out of this water, what we make? We can make so many things. We do make so many things. We make sarbat, right? Juice. We make many other things. We use this water for cooking, for cleaning, for so many other things. So also we make this water components of pure Dhamma, pure Dharma, right? Until we understand the purity of Dharma, what are the constituents or components of it, what will happen? We'll not know and we'll mix up so many things, and pure Dhamma, pure Dharma will become impure. When something becomes impure, it creates negative impact, imbalance, dukkha we call that, right? Suffering, misery, restlessness, all the kind of negative experiences we are having, that is due to actually pollution of whatever is given, the Dhamma, Dharma, whatever is available. So here, I'll not take long time. I just want to convey the message that Dhamma is given by the Buddha, but in course of time, it has given rise to different forms. Right? So Buddhism was not the term given by the Buddha, in fact. Buddhism is a term, it's an English term. I don't know whether that time anybody who spoke English with Buddha and Buddha communicated. I had no information as such. That's why we have only either it is in Sanskrit or in Pali or in Magadhi or the Magadhi, Prakrit, whatever we call Indian dialects or Indian languages. The words of the Buddha preserved in these languages. There's nowhere mention of Buddhism as such. But Dhamma, Vinaya, Sutta, that is Dharma, Vinaya, Sutra, right? This kind of words are found. This Dharma, Vinaya, Sutra, these are the part and parcel of human behavior, human thinking, human actions. So this Buddhism is something which is a modern development, I would call it, the term. That's why what we have nowadays is Buddhist tourism, right? We have Buddhist archaeology, Buddhist architecture, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist tantrism, or so many things with prefix or suffix Buddhism or either Buddhist something, it's coming like that. That means Dhamma given by the Buddha is now taken into different containers, in different forms. Like water is pure form, you can take it water into some jar or the bottle or glass and mix some water, the color, maybe blue, yellow, any color, then it has its own name. So like the Dhamma given by the Buddha, in course of time, we people or the human beings have developed it and named it in different forms. So my only point here is, let us do have this kind of conferences to understand different aspects of so-called Buddhism, Buddhist history, Buddhist culture, Buddhist architecture, Buddhist tourism, Buddhist philosophy is fine. But essentially, the Dhamma or Dharma, Vinaya, Sutra, that we cannot forget or neglect, because they are the essential components of the Dhamma, the teachings Buddha has given to us. Right? And if we are to, if somebody asks what Buddha has taught, right? Definitely, I think all of you know, Buddha did not teach so many things, but whatever Buddha taught, so many things that can be subsumed under very, very, very simple words, right? How the water of ocean and the rivers and all that can be brought under only two elements,
oxygen, hydrogen. Like that, the teachings of the Buddha can be brought into only three. There is, we call it sila, we call it samadhi, we call it panya. These are the essential components of the teachings of the Buddha. We cannot neglect these things. And the teachings of the Buddha is not to philosophize only. It is not only to be debated and spoken about. Right? The teachings of the Buddha is essentially to follow and practice, live in one's own life with some purpose. The purpose is to elevate human experience, elevate human existence, elevate our relationship, the relationship of human beings with other living beings, and to liberate from many kinds of shackles, bondages, defilements mainly, and ultimately to transcend to a level where there is sustained, unwavering peace and happiness. It's called nirvana or nibbana. Right? This is what actually the teachings of the Buddha that we have implement, practice it. And here, lastly, what we think, what we speak, what we do. These three things are again important if we are to follow the teachings of the Buddha and maintain peace and harmony, balance among ourselves and with our co-fellow siblings. I call them co-fellow siblings. Animals, creatures, all are like our siblings. If the whole world is Mother Earth, we human beings only one brother or sister, the others are also our brothers and sisters. We should not look down upon them. We have to take care of them if we are big brothers, right? We should not neglect them. So let us follow the teachings of the Buddha, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and be aware of our actions, mental action, vocal action, and physical action. When we do pray, we should be careful. We should know clearly. Do we pray only for our benefit, for our good, or do we pray for the good and happiness of other living beings? Of course, we Buddhists do pray for the happiness and good of all other living beings. Praying is not enough. So we have to also do it, right? Do it as we think, so we also do for the good and welfare of other living beings. So this message should be sent out to all living beings, whether you call yourself Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, whatever you call, but essentially we all want to live in peace and harmony, in balance, and for which only the thing that is possible is by sending out the message of this Sila Samadhi Panya, and to be careful about our mental, vocal, physical actions. Act on compassion, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama used to say. That's what we have to follow and send a message of His Holy Dalai Lama. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venerable, for this, for reminding us all of the relevance of the Buddha Dharma. Now, may I welcome Venerable Geshe Sampan Getzola, Director, Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, to give the welcome speech.
Go to the news on the tower and Japan, which is under Chino to the Putin de la Chance. Very good morning to everyone. First of all, the due of Dharamsala weather, the most venerable Dr. Demapaya has come here till reach twice. But finally, luckily, today we have him here. So I'm very apologize to you taking time to get here. It is my great pleasure to welcome respected Venerable Dr. Demapaya, the Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation, the Chief Guest, Medechime Tsiangla, the Secretary General of the Department of Religion and the Culture of the Central Tibetan Administration, Guest of Honor, Venerable Jizuma Tenzebemola, Key Speaker, Venerable Geshe Lakdola, the Director of the Library of Tibet Works and Archives, respected Sangha members, speakers, scholars, and the dignitaries to the IBC's first regional conference at the College for Higher Tibetan Studies at the Dharamsala. This IBC's regional conference on the legacy of Nalanda tradition is highly important and particularly need of today for spreading the message and the practice of peace, harmony, non-violence, human values, and happiness in this world. Although the precious ancient Nalanda University tradition declined in India a long time ago, Tibetans kept the Nalanda tradition intact for centuries in the form of a Tibetan language, teachings, wisdom, knowledge, and practices. Therefore, for the complete revival of the Nalanda tradition of wisdom, knowledge, and practice in India and other regions, this kind of support for the tradition, which is encapsulated with the Tibetan or Bodhi language and the learning methods, is extremely important. As the four main commitments of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, are very, very relevant for bringing world peace and happiness. I take this moment to mention these commitments here. His first commitment is promotion of human value. And second is promotion of religion harmony. Third is preservation of a Tibetan language and culture. And fourth is a reviving of ancient Indian knowledge. On behalf of the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, College for Higher Tibetan Studies, and on behalf of Tibetans inside and outside of Tibet, I want to express deep gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to Venerable Dr. Demapaya, the Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation, and Shri Dr. Shakti Singha, the Director General of International Buddhist Confederation, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to collaborate with the International Buddhist Confederation and the Indian Council for Cultural Relations on organizing this regional conference in Dharamsala. I very much hope and pray for the big success of this conference. Thank you all.
Thank you, Venerable Geshe Samson Gatala. Now may I request our keynote speaker, Geshe Lakola, Director, LTW Dharamsala, to please come and give a speech.
Namaste. This beautiful Hindi word, namaste, basically means I respect the God in you. I can also interpret it by saying I respect the goodness in you, or I respect the Buddha in you. It's my great pleasure to attend this conference, Legacies of Nalanda Tradition, Scholarships and Practice, organized by IBC, ICCR, IBD. I would like to extend my greetings to all the main speakers and also my patient-elect, to all the listeners. To save time, I'll try as much as possible to read and then to try to give a kind of extempore speech, which based on my experience, we have this habit of continue to speak. I'll start with a salutation from Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom. This is not to say that I'm a good Sanskrit scholar, but to trace the source of the legacy of Buddhism and also the legacy of the great Nalanda tradition. Nagarjuna, in his Mulya Madhyamika Karika, the two very important verses. One right in the beginning, paying homage to the Buddha, and one right in the end, the purpose of the book he has composed. So the one in the beginning, he says, Anirodham anutpadam anuchedam asasvatam anikartam ananartham anagamam anirgamam ye partit samudpadam parapancho pasamam shivam desayamam sa sambudatam vande vandanam varam. Basically paying respect and praise to the teaching of dependent origination and shunyata. Then at the very end of that text, here's this two-line verse, which is like Sarvadarsiti Prahanyaya Sadharman Adisyat Anukampan Upadyayatam Namasyami Godam. So he's paying homage to Buddha at the end by saying that the reason that you have taught this very profound philosophical teaching is not just for the sake of showing scholarship, but to remove the confusion and ignorance of sentient beings. So therefore, he's clearly saying that the reason I composed this text is motivated by compassion. India is a land of great culture and civilization. I expect that what I've written makes a little bit bigger sense. I'm not going to speak very long because it's written one, but Hindi में बोलता है ना थोड़ा चूस के लिखा है. India is a land of great culture and civilization. The Indic civilization is by far the longest surviving civilization on this planet. So we should speak about Buddhism or Nalanda tradition with that background. A special feature of this Indic culture, whether it's the Vedic or Jainism or Buddhism or whatever, a special feature of this Indic culture has been its extreme diversity and plurality. Well reflected by the Rig Veda dictum, Ekam Sadvi Praha Bahuda Vadanti, meaning that the truth is one, the wise call it by many names. Or Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the world is one single family. That is the big idea, which is the background of all the Indian religious traditions. So that we should remember. Another important feature of this Indic religion is that it is all these different religions that flourished in India are all dialogue religions. They have the concept of solving problems, gaining knowledge through discussion and dialogue, be it between the Guru and the Chela or between other religious members. This is a very important. His Holiness emphasized a lot about the need to solve any problem through dialogue and negotiation, not by showing force. And these teachings are not based on the teachings of just one person, but conglomeration of many teachings. In this teaching, we also have revolts like the Buddhism, which kind of revolted against the concept of selfhood. And we introduced Anatmavad against Atmavad. And we also have the modern tradition of seers and Sufis and speakers. And this country became the home of all the major world religions, those that are native, which means born in this country, and those that came from other countries. For centuries, these different faiths coexisted side by side. That is the greatness of India. There has also been many secular writings as well. Some of the oldest secular writings is found in Indian tradition. For example, the law books of ancient India known as Dharma Sutras and Smritis, which comprises of worldly things and not pertaining to religious rituals or beliefs. This literature is rather more rational, scientific in its approach. Let me speak a few words between Indo-Tibetan relationship. Tibetans respectfully call India Arya Bhumi, not because of the Aryans with the big physical size, but because of the wonderful concept, Hakwa, the excellent superior concepts and people that is produced in this country. Arya Bhumi, and look towards it for wisdom teachings for centuries. The hardships and sacrifices made by Tibetan students and translators, and the light given by the Indian gurus like Padma Sambhava, Acharya Shantarakshita, Kamalashila, and Adisha are worth written in gold. There is thus this very special bond between India and Tibet. The bond is between Guru and Chela. So the relation between India and Tibet is not economical or political, but spiritual. Because of this, Tibetan kings and its subjects, they developed this unwavering faith in the Dharma that we were able to preserve the complete teaching of the Buddha for the Nalanda tradition, both the Sutra and Tantra in its complete sense among the Tibetans, even in exile. With the Chinese invasion, unthinkable, systematic, planned destruction has taken place in Tibet, and it is still continuing even today, right now. But that complete form of Buddha's teaching or Nalanda tradition, which flourished between the 5th and the 12th century, and then lost after that, is still available in India in the major Tibetan monasteries and institutions. It is in this context that I applaud the establishment of the Nalanda University by Government of India and all other great initiatives that is being made by the Indian government and Indian scholars. I believe that this conference is an offshoot of those endeavors. I personally consider these efforts as exemplary and will serve India and the humanity for many generations to come. And it has been my long-term thinking that India should concentrate and show its spiritual richness based on ahimsa paramo dharma. It should show its soft power and not the power. Soft power means the power of culture and not the hard power, the power of arms and the military, which I sometimes prefer calling it the animal power, the brute animal power. As Shanti Deva very clearly said in this text, we do not have to kill people, they will die. That is the wisdom of Nalanda, of Indian tradition. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's contribution. It is high time that we make systematic planning for the revival of ancient Indian tradition, including the Nalanda system of learning. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been for decades inspiring people to study in the spirit of Nalanda tradition. In the past few years, His Holiness made special effort for the revival of ancient Indian thoughts, especially in the field of concept of human mind and how it works, and the process of emotional regulation and the use of logic and reason, which in the ancient Indian tradition it's called Shastrarth and Anuviksiki, the use of Praman and the use of debate and logic to find the truth. To recall the great Nalanda scholars, he specially commissioned a beautiful tanka of the 17 Nalanda scholars and wrote praises to the great deeds of these Nalanda scholars. I think it is also appropriate to recall, to remind you the book that His Holiness has written, Kinship of Faiths, How to Bring Religious Harmony. Nalanda is a place blessed by Buddha with his many visits, even before the Nalanda Mahavidyalaya came into being, and many great acharyas also blessed it. And then after the establishment of Nalanda Mahavidyalaya, which became the biggest residential university in the 5th century and continued to flourish until 20th century when destruction came. And it is said that more than 60 different subjects are taught in the Nalanda Monastic University. So it is also appropriate time that we should now ask the question, why and how Buddhism disappeared more or less from India, and the need to restore its all glory for the benefit of everybody. So just a few words on its relevance today. Today, the world is mainly suffering from inner poverty and not so much from material poverty. Unchecked greed in this materialistic world is source of all evils like corruption, exploitation, gap between the rich and the poor, war, famine, pandemic. The list is endless, unfortunately. What was the Buddha's main concern? When many mystical questions were asked to Buddha, he answered that his main purpose is to remove suffering and develop happiness in the life of sentient beings. In fact, after his enlightenment, he refused to teach. Even after repeated requests, he said, I found something which is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unfabricated. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. Let me continue my meditation in the forest. And finally, after 7 weeks, when he accepted to teach, the first teaching was how to remove suffering and how to cultivate long-lasting happiness. So the teaching is very simple. And there are also occasions when some of the seekers, they asked the Buddha that you are teaching this path, you are constantly talking about removing suffering, gaining happiness, and things like that. So if you continue to practice this, how are you going to see the God? Those people who believe in God. The Buddha said, if with wholehearted effort, if you purify yourself, remove all the negative emotions, all the sufferings, you will get glimpses of all the great things, including God or whatever is there. It's a beautiful answer. So it is our inner impurity which hinders us seeing the truth, seeing the reality in its many forms. So therefore, I also would like to recall on this occasion to pay more attention to the very profound teaching of the four Purush Arth, the four purposes of a human life. That is Dharma, Kama, Artha, Moksha. For this life, we need Arth that will satisfy our Kama, our wish. Minam Devan, me Mila. But that is not enough. For more long-lasting happiness and for future happiness, especially happiness for future lives, you need Dharma to achieve that moksha or liberation. Final lines, our solution to these many problems. We need to find the solution. And let me make it very clear. The solution will not come from science. The solution will not come from religion. It has to come from us, the human beings. As Vandeji also mentioned, that unless you maintain that purity and practice what you preach, you will misuse religion, you will misuse science. I don't have to elaborate on this. Science has given us many blessings, but there is no shortage of the curses that it spelled upon us. Unfortunately, today, the nuclear power of destruction is so immense that some people say that the whole humanity can be destroyed all over 7 times. Is there a need to destroy us 7 times? I mean, it's ludicrous, right? But these are all creation of human mind, negative human mind. So the purpose of Buddhist training is to transform this negative, destructive emotion to the positive, destructive emotion. Become His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Become Buddha. There are so many other great beings. Just one great person has contributed so much to the well-being of people of this world. So we need to follow their example. So it has to come from us, the human beings. We need to rearrange our internal disarray and not the external settings. In this materialistic world, we keep on fine-tuning the external surrounding, the situation. That we have to change, right? We need to update our inner good qualities and not just updating the external gadgets like your mobile phone all the time. Honestly speaking, when was the last time you updated yourself? Have you cross-checked it? As somebody rightly said, maturity is when your concern for others outweighs your concern for yourself. In a simple language, if your concern for other people's well-being is more than your concern for yourself, that means you are mature. You're a grown-up person. If you don't have that, if you think only about yourself, you're immature. You may be highly old in terms of age, but you are still child. We need to mature and cultivate inner qualities like bodhicitta, compassion, and so forth. Because when we talk about cultivating compassion, it's not a luxurious item. Without love, without compassion, we cannot survive on this planet. We cannot survive. Right? Much of our suffering is from ignorance, self-obsession, short-sightedness. The Buddhist teaching or the Nalanda tradition's teaching of unification of faith and reason, harmony of compassion and wisdom, synthesis of listening, contemplation, and meditation. In ancient Indian tradition, there is a lot of emphasis on Shruti and Smriti. That means listen. When in the 12th, 13th century, the outside forces tried to destroy Hinduism and Buddhism, the little that we were able to preserve was because of Shruti. Many people who had listened to the teaching And then more importantly, Smriti, they have memorized it. So whatever they have memorized in their mind, nobody could destroy it. So these are the solution for all the ills in the human society. Maintaining a holistic approach and following the middle path, as His Holiness says. I once again thank all the organizers and pray and wish that the inner people pay more attention to the inner cultivation than the external construction. Because the source of external construction is a limit. It is to come from environment. And you can make that continuous material development only at the cost of destroying the external environment, whose limitations which are already seen. Look at the situation of the water, the polluted air, and so on. We are already seeing it. And look at the situation of the pandemic. These are all human doings. So unless we wake up, probably we may survive. But what about the next generation? Next generation means your children. Right? So it's really like when we talk about cultivating these inner qualities, it is not, a luxurious item. It is do or die question of our survival. So I pray that with these many efforts made by these different organizations will go a long way. But in order to make these programs go a long way, we all need to support and help each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe Lakdola. Now may I request our chief guest, Mrs. Chimithyang La, Secretary, Department of Religion, Central Tibetan Administration, to share with us.
Good morning. Before I begin speaking, I would like to humbly submit in profound reverence and gratitude to the holy portrait of our revered leader, His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama, whose benevolent blessing is always there with us. I extend my personal and on behalf of Department of Religion and Culture, Central Tibetan Administration, deepest respect to the and the right and esteemed keynote speaker, Venerable Geshe Lakdola, Director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archive, Guest of Honor, Jesuma Pamula, Venerable Dr. Dhammapriya, Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation, and Venerable Geshe Samten La, Director of the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, and all the respected participants of today's regional conference on Legacy of Nalanda tradition. First of all, I would like to talk a bit about what Nalanda University was to provide some context. Nalanda University was one of the most well-known and reputed centers of learning in the ancient world. It attracted students from all over the world, including Tibet, China, Persia, Japan, Greece, etc., and had its peak over 10,000 students and 2,000 teachers. Nalanda is also said to be the birthplace of Buddha's two spiritual disciples, Sariputra and Mogayana. According to traditional Tibetan sources, Sariputra entered the Parinirvana and Nalanda, and a stupa holding his Raman was erected here. Emperor Ashoka later built a large temple at the site of honor to honor him. Moreover, Buddhist scholars like Rahula Gupta, Nagarjuna, Suvishnu constructed 100 temples at the location, paving the way to Nalanda to become a place of a great learning and significance in the ancient world. It also received patronage of the Gupta and other dynasties and became a world-renowned center of learning for Buddhist philosophy and scholarship. Tibetan Buddhism has been a deep roots in Nalanda University of ancient India. Many of the important Indian figures for Tibetan Buddhism hail from Nalanda. They be teachers at Nalanda. They wrote their treatises at Nalanda, and many of the Tibetan scholars in the period also traveled to Nalanda to study. Tibetan Buddhism is commonly separated into two phases, an early propagation and a later propagation. The early propagation happened from the 7th century to the 9th century. It was sponsored by the king of Tibet, beginning with the Songtsen Gampo. According to tradition, there have a number of people competing for the influence in Tibet, and this included Chinese teachers. The most famous of this was Wang Sheng Moyan, a Chin teacher who traveled to Tibet and apparently attracted a fairly substantial following. When followers of Moyan and the followers of the Indian master Kamleshla clashed in terms of ideology, King Chison then sponsored a debate between the two of the Samya monastery, known historically as the Council of Lhasa. The Indian side, championed by the disciple of Kamaleshwar, advocated the traditional Indian Mahayana Buddhism, a gradualist path to Buddhahood, while the Chinese side advocated an instantaneous path to Buddhahood. Since the legendary Tibetan Buddhists decided that Indian Buddhism was the source of pure Buddhism. So when Buddhism was revived in Tibet, in the second propagation, India, rather than China, became the sole source for Buddhism. And one of the most important places the Tibetans traveled to and from, which they imported teachers in, was Nalanda University. In that sense, His Holiness the Dalai Lama had always stressed that there is a strong connection between Tibet and Nalanda, and that many of the important teachers of Nalanda played significant role in Tibetan Buddhism. The Tibetan Buddhism largely derives its philosophical tradition from the 17 Pandits of Nalanda, which includes the likes of Nagarjuna, Dignaga, Dharmakirti, Chandrakirti, Samideva, Asanga, Vasubandhu, Shankar Rakshita, and so forth. All these scholars are associated with Nalanda University. In the sense, it's a very strong connection between the tradition that became orthodox and played a leading role in Tibetan Buddhism and the types of Buddhism that Tibet developed. Tibetans also have a deep-rooted tradition of going to India, particularly Nalanda University, to study and translate texts into Tibetan. Primi Sambodha, who invented the Tibetan script, is also said to have visited Nalanda to study Buddhism and language. From Primi Sambodha's first visit to Nalanda in the 7th century till the 13th century, 16 Tibetan scholars and translators, such as the Vasana, Parasana, Namkhen Yingpo, Kawapeso, Chokulu Yense, etc., recorded in Tibetan history to have traveled to Nalanda to study. In reality, even more would have surely gone there than what is reported. These indicate that Tibetan Buddhism is a direct descendant of the Nalanda tradition, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama claims. For the last several years, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has encapsulated his lifelong efforts into 4 principal commitments. First, the promotion of universal value. Second, the promotion of religious harmony. And the third, the preservation of Tibet's rich culture and fragile environment. Lastly, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has committed himself to revival function into knowledge, particularly the knowledge of religion. His Holiness believed that the rapid development of scientific and materialistic growth had resulted in a notion today that materialism is the sole meaning of life. This has caused a deviation from mental development and inner science advocated by ancient Indian knowledge system like the Nalanda tradition. However, despite the development in modern education, there is an increasing trend of man-made disaster. For instance, the 2 world wars have caused more suffering, destruction, and death than the world's national disaster. Even now, the world grapples with the challenges caused by coronavirus pandemic. We are faced with a forced or unforeseen difficulties, whether it is economic or emotional. At such time, the only escape from this suffering is through relying on our mental health and strength. Adopting a secular approach and treating all spiritual traditions with respect has been an exemplary Indian tradition. His Holiness believes that by encouraging ideas of reasoning, logic, universal respect preserved in ancient Indian knowledge, there will be more individual cultivating peaceful mind to create a more peaceful society, which in return will contribute to a more peaceful world. His Holiness notes that all of us all wants to depend on hope, which is the pursuit of something good. The key, His Holiness says, is to establish peace of mind. And for that, we must understand the system of mind and emotion that is present in ancient Indian knowledge. If the ancient Indian wisdom, such as Nalanda tradition, is successfully revived, the world would benefit effectively from both modern and ancient education. Modern education will have developed the outer material world, while the ancient education, such as the Nalanda tradition, will develop our inner and mental capacity. If we are able to successfully inculcate both the modern and ancient education in our education system, it will enrich the education system with both material and inner side, which will surely help in creating a better happiness and a more peaceful world. This is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama is currently focusing on by reviving the Nalanda tradition. Before I wind up my limited formality, I have this inclination to say that I received the training in this institute more than 2 decades ago as a trainee of Public Service Commission, Central Tibetan Administration. I consider myself as a part of the institution, and I thank the staff members of the institution, former as well as the present, of their effort and hard work in the best positive way in the given situation for the promotion of Nalanda tradition. Thank you. May peace always prevail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chimitevanga, for sharing a succinct background of the Nalanda tradition and its relevance in today's world. Now, may I request our guest of honor, Jason Pamela, to come forward and share with us her thoughts.
So, good morning, everybody. First of all, of course, my thanks to Venerable Dhammapiya of the International Buddhist Confederation and also to the Indian Council of Cultural Relations for inviting me to participate in this regional conference which is being held here in Sara College. So according to the schedule, I have 5 minutes. So you're very lucky because I'm going to keep to the schedule, especially as we're running over time. So basically what I wanted to just mention was that the Buddha himself predicted that the Dharma would flourish when the fourfold Sangha of both monastics and laity, male and female, studied, practiced, and propagated the Dharma. He said it was like a table with 4 legs, which then would be very stable. And if the fourfold Sangha was well established, then the Dharma would flourish in the world. However, it's a very strange microphone. So it seems to me that organizations such as the IBC, which are international, serve to remind us of the importance of this fourfold Sangha. The Buddha never said it was only monks. He said monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, everyone should be participating in understanding, practicing, and receiving the fruits of their study and their practice. But somehow in all Buddhist countries, it's never quite eventuated. And even Nalanda, wonderful though it was, with the inspiration for such profound philosophical thinking, was only for boys. I don't think they mentioned anything about nuns being there studying along with the monks. And when it went into Tibet, likewise, it was absorbed into the monasteries, not into the nunneries, and certainly not among the lay people. So what is so fascinating, to my mind, what is so fascinating is that nowadays, for the first time in 2,500 years of Buddhism, actually the Fourfold Sangha is coming to the fore. And Buddhism throughout the world is being studied, translated, practiced, taught by monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, without any bias. For the first time, some of the top scholars, top practitioners are lay people, are females as well as males. This is an extraordinary, to my mind, transformation in how Buddhism is understood in the world. And of course, in India, maybe you don't understand it so much, but if you go to the West, you will know that most of the Dharma centers are run by lay people, often women. And if you give any Dharma talk, the majority of the audience will be lay women. Very just one or two monks, maybe. That's it. So Dharma is changing in the world. And it is, I mean, some people might see it as a degeneration, but to my mind, it is a reappraisal of the Buddha's original intent. He said, I will not pass into Mahaparinirvana until the Fourfold Sangha is well established. He put off. Once the Fourfold Sangha was well established, then he said, now I can leave. It's okay now. Everything's set in motion. Not just for monks, not just for nuns, not just for laymen, not just for lay women, but for everybody in a joint venture. Everybody together, rowing that same boat of the Dharma across the ocean of samsara. So this is what is happening nowadays. And to my mind, it's very interesting. I mean, even here, looking at this audience, you know, everybody is here. And they should be here. Everyone, the Dharma is nowadays not locked behind monastery doors. It's out there on the internet. It's in all the libraries and the bookshops. You can get, you know, YouTubes and podcasts of anything nowadays. And the people studying philosophy, Uma, Madhyamaka, Yogacara, logic, they're not from any particular background. They're not any particular gender. They're everybody who has a sincere interest and devotion to studying the Dharma, making their lives more meaningful, finding a path to liberation. It's open now. Anybody, because we're educated. We're all educated. And therefore, if the interest is there, the materials are there, the teachers are there, everything is ready. This is the first time this has ever happened, that anybody who really wants to study and practice can do so now. It's all ready for us all. So, and all the different traditions also. It's amazing what's this. It's like a Dharma supermarket. You know, it's almost like there's too much. Oh, what do I choose? But it's a richness. It's a richness because many people are deeply sincere. It's not superficial. Some people are superficial, but many, many people transform their lives. Transform their lives just hearing about the Dharma and the methods and the view of the Dharma. Oh, they just, it's very heartening. I get many, many letters from people talking about this, about how just coming across the Dharma has completely transformed their lives. People who are born in Dharma countries almost don't understand that because they're so used to it. They think, oh, well, everybody knows this, but everybody doesn't know it until they find out about it. So therefore, I think this is very, very, in all the doom and gloom that is happening in the world at this time, that is something very, very positive. That even just the teachings on loving kindness and compassion for all living beings, not just for humans, is a revelation for many people because they never heard that before. So anyway, we can rejoice that the Buddha Dharma is now offered to this suffering world without any restrictions of your status or your gender, for the welfare and the happiness of all sentient beings. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Now with this, we conclude this inaugural session. We would be breaking for tea for 20 minutes. And after tea, we will be starting our first session. Thank you everyone for your patience.